Okay, so we've been talking about philosophy. Now we're going to talk about the branches of philosophy. Because remember we had said that philosophy is the study of the whole? Well, if you're going to study the whole or all of knowledge, right? And suppose this circle, wow, that's a bad circle. Oh well, suppose that circle is like all of knowledge, right? That means anything you can know, from knowledge about music to facts about science to historical knowledge, even emotional and poetic knowledge. It's all in there. And so all of this stuff, any of it, is the purview of philosophy. Because you find that at the highest level, things are all very connected. Now, in terms of studying the discipline, though, you have to break these things down into manageable chunks, right? And so we can divide philosophy into several branches, or like sub-disciplines, you could call it. Let's change colors, shall we? And so we could have something like metaphysics. And metaphysics tries to discover what is real. You could have what is called epistemology. And epistemology is the study of knowledge or what is true. You could have ethics. Ethics is a branch of philosophy which deals with what is good. You could have logic, which is the study of what is correct thinking. You could have also politics or political science, which is kind of stems from ethics, really, and it's what is good for the whole. Then there's all kinds of other things, like there's aesthetics. Well, I don't know if I'm going to fit it in here. We'll try. Aesthetics, which deals with what is art and how does it operate. There's linguistics, which deals with language and what words represent and what is communication. And we could also talk about the philosophy of mind, which deals with what is consciousness. CS is short form for consciousness. And there's still many others. So the point is, these are under here all these subspecies of knowledge that can, we could divide this down into smaller and smaller parts. In our course, for the most part, we will probably be dealing with metaphysics, a little epistemology, ethics, and politics. Those are kind of like the four major fields. So what we're going to be dealing with is, we're going to be dealing with, first of all, reality, what is real, metaphysics. Then we'll be dealing with what is true, kind of based on what is real. Then we'll be dealing with what is good, kind of based on what is true. And then in politics, we'll deal with, what is good government, and what is government is what's good for the whole, which is related to good, yada, yada, yada. And so these are the major things that we'll be talking about in this course here. No, don't clear page. Actually, yes, let's clear page. Bam. Awesome. And we're still on it. And let me give you sort of like, remember how we had said that philosophy is, all knowledge, right? Study of the whole kind of thing. Well, what does that really mean? Consider this for a second, okay? Here is a little tower, okay? And there's various windows, whatever, you get the point. And then here's the top. Okay. And suppose, right, there's a guy. Here he is down here. There's a wee little guy. When he's standing on the ground, he can kind of see this much stuff, right? Now, when he goes in here and he moves up the tower, the higher he gets, the more of the countryside he can see, right? And so think of education and think of wisdom in this kind of regard. Because once you get up here, right, on top of the tower, then you can see a tremendous amount right, in each direction. And so your understanding of things is quite broad, which means you can see far more of the whole. And so you can understand how this is related to this because your breadth of understanding is so huge. And so as we move up, right, we are ascending in wisdom. And how do we ascend in wisdom? Well, by study, right? By gaining knowledge. And so the more we gain knowledge, then the more we can also see that all these facts and little things that we know, here they are, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, right? All this stuff is actually related, which is why when we, divided philosophy into these subsections, remember that a second ago, and, he said, oh, you can study these things independently. Yeah, and, there's courses in each one of these things in the subfields. The point is they're all related in a whole. And so metaphysics is related to politics, and aesthetics is related to logic, etc. It just takes a vision of the whole from up here to be able to see that. And that's ultimately what philosophy tries to do, and that's how we divide up the discipline. Now, just so to make a point, so in the old days, if you went to college and you sought knowledge, and not everyone went to college, there was only a few things that you could study. One was theology, and the schools, the colleges, began in the universities began in medieval Europe. So the university, the very first one, I believe, was in 1080 at Bologna in Italy. And there you could only study certain things. Theology was the big one because it was Catholic. But you could also study grammar. And grammar is essentially what we would call literature. It wasn't like literally, nouns and verbs that you would have gotten as a child. But the word grammar refers to language in general. So there's theology, grammar, mathematics. You know what that is? Law, medicine, and then everything else was philosophy. Actually, no. All of this stuff could be called philosophy. And the sciences that you could study would all fall under natural philosophy or physics. And so the deal is, it's like everything you studied was an aspect of philosophy. Now, we live in a day and age where we don't necessarily appreciate that, right? For the most part, when people hear the word philosophy, they probably think either one, it's some corporate idea or opinion, which is a misuse of the word, or they tend to think that it is just some, frivolous thing that you do if you have nothing else to do. But the point of the matter is that all of Western knowledge began with philosophy. And so anyways, just so we kind of appreciate where that's coming from, and we see how philosophy is broken into its various disciplines. And so today, for instance, if you look at a philosophy department at a school, they will teach, in a big school, they'll teach pretty much all of those branches that we had talked about, and perhaps even some smaller subfields.